Welcome to Circuit of the Americas here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Welcome to round number 11 of 13 of the series, and welcome to RaceSpotTV Primetime. Will Vinton along with Jake Sperry. We are about to get ourselves underway then for another fantastic evening's worth of racing. And well, Jake, this is the race that we pretty much found out about an hour ago. That is one of the beauties about this 2K World Cup, because we're here now at Circuit of the Americas. Drivers have just got to put up or shut up.
Exactly, and you look at this sort of circuit. I've had my chartered flight over from Monza all the way over to here after Sports Car Open, and this is a circuit which will really test quite a lot of the drivers. It's going to be all about how aggressive you can be while staying to what is a very strict off-track course of action. More strict, of course, than the FIA about a month ago. But when you get right down to it about this circuit, the big characteristic is just how much low fuel usage the West circuit has, and actually how much you can save on pit stops by saving so much.
Yes, drivers will have to do themselves Of course, one pit stop, that is what is mandatory in this series. Let's have a look then at what is happening in terms of qualifications, because it is underway right now. 10 minutes as ever, drivers have the opportunity to go as fast as they can over a couple of laps. We will bring you that information in just one moment's time. But, well, Jake, one of the things that is worth noting here today is that we've got ourselves a championship that has still got a bit of bite to it.
A little bit in the form of Iron de Freitas just dominating with second place after second place after second place all the time, and it surprises a lot of people about just how consistent he is. And as a champion, he may not have had the wins. We've seen surprise winners like Tuan Tran and Luke Whitten take victories this season, but again, it's that man in number one taking the triple right-hander who always seems to have that one bit of advantage that everyone else doesn't seem to have. Penultimate corner, turn 15 on this layout here, and just taking all of the track, maybe a little bit less, and then one more corner to go before he sets his first time.
Yeah, indeed so. So here is that driver then of Iron de Freitas. He's going to cross the start-finish line right about now. Let's see what his lap time is going to be. 1:44.941. Stephen Stoyles then is the first driver to work himself past the stripe and set a lap time. 4 drivers have completed a lap time as we speak. That is going to be Stoyles from Herviers, Malokas moving up into second place, Brian Duell in P number 4 right now, Jake.
Yeah, Brian Duell, probably one of the sole surviving positive sim racing drivers. Really has lost all the team that has been built around him. The likes of Malokas, the likes of de Freitas, really does have to try and develop a brand new system around him to try and make sure that he gets himself going. And you keep looking at the times going through. Johnny Gowindi, 2 shoes indeed, 44.8, right to the point.
Yeah, so Gowindi moves himself up to the top of the timing stands for the moment. A lot of people have not yet set themselves a lap time. One of those drivers is Philippe Leber. He moves himself up then to first place as he will do a 1:44.793. The Texan in Texas at Circuit of the Americas moves himself up top for the time being, as Carl Dronke hasn't yet completed a lap in this event. Want to keep an eye out, of course, on Francois Boulier and Ariane de Freitas. De Freitas right now working himself through turn number 18 and 19 as he will come in, well, through turn number 18 as we speak right now. We're still going to use the normal corner numbers, Jake, otherwise you just think it's silly.
It's going to get very confusing here for de Freitas, and he knows that he's only got 1 lap time to make it count. You can see he was very conservative through that penultimate corner into the final one, then just trying to take it just 79 kilometers an hour before getting back onto the power and getting himself back up going and through. 44.813, only good enough for the front row. But he should be doing more than that, maybe. Philippe Leber, fantastic. Rylands, another one of the TT Racing crew.
Yeah.
And it's double no lap.
Yeah, indeed so. So, for Iron de Freitas, he moves up what was second place, but Paul Malokas has just secured himself provisional pole position, 1:44.369. Will that driver of Philippe Leber be able to respond to that one? We'll find out in just one moment's time, because we now go on board with Philippe Leber as he works himself down into turn number 19 right now. So Philippe Leber just got 1 more corner to go, and that will be his qualifying done and in the books for this session. Heading himself now out of turn number 20. And for Philippe Leber, will he get himself pole position? The answer is going to be no, not yet. But he's going to give himself, no, that's it for him. He cannot improve. 3rd place only for that driver then of Philippe Leber. Brian Duell has, by my watch, completed his laps as well. We'll keep an eye out on him. Surprised of qualifying, Adam Rylice hasn't set a time yet.
Well, no, he's messed up both of his laps, so I don't think there's going to be any chance of him going through. So that's going to be something very interesting to keep an eye out on. Fahim Antonides has, in theory, 1 more lap, but I think he's botched that as well. In fact, no, he's having technical difficulties, which is stopping him from setting those laps. But nobody else setting a lap time on circuit. It looks pretty done and dusted from my view, Will.
Yeah, we've been riding on board then with Adam Rylas as he has been turning in another lap, trying to work himself towards the start-finish line. That New Zealand driver in the number 180 machine. So qualifying for the most part is now going to be classified as in the books here from Circuit of the Americas. Biggest surprise really is, I would say, the fact that Arian De Freitas all the way down in P number 5.
It's a surprise, yes, in some respects, but you also have to say it's a surprise in the fact that De Freitas is half a second off the pace here compared to his teammate Paul Malocas. So De Freitas got a lot of work that he needs to do in the middle of this race, but on strategy, on keeping himself in the fight, there's no other better driver in the world at doing that in Skip Barber's than Arian De Freitas. I think that he definitely has a chance of gaining positions early in this event, especially with the nature of turn number 1.
So then, Jake, top 3 tips for this race. Go.
Safe fuel, safe fuel, safe fuel.
That was easy, wasn't it?
It is. I saw a race once with the Pro Mazdas back in the day, and the race went so light on fuel that everyone had to take a mandatory amount of fuel, and it got to the final lap and people were diving down into the pits just to take legitimately a litre of fuel and go, and the race was spoiled because the race winner, who I won't name names, NX Racing Justin Brunner, forgot to take fuel.
Yeah, here we are then. Let's look at the track. It is 2.6 miles in length here today, 16 turns. We're racing for 23 laps here today. One thing that's worth noting, Jake, is it's pretty windy out there. 29 km/h winds here. Track temp at, the air temp at 24 degrees Celsius and 50% relative humidity.
Well, that wind is definitely going to be a massive factor when you get up to the likes of turn number 1 out on circuit, because it's massively uphill and then you're going straight back the other way massively downhill, so you could be going up into a crosswind, which is a nightmare, a headwind, which could be a very difficult thing because that turns into a tailwind on the way down. No matter which way you do, a heavy wind here today changes the characteristics of the game.
Yeah, indeed so. So then, we're going to give ourselves a look at your starting grid for this round number 11 of the Skip Barber 2K World Cup here on RaceSpotTV. Grid coming up now. There's Paul Malocas. He will have pole position for this event then. Johnny Gwindy second place, Philippe Lebert in third, Brian Duell on the outside of that second row of the grid. Arian De Freitas, P number 5. Stephen Stoyles, a fantastic qualifying by him in P6. Then Andrew Picorio, Francois Boulienne in P number 8, and running at your top 10, Tyler Herviers and Enzo Cantor, Jake.
Yeah, and that's fantastic work from them, and they've really put themselves up in that sort of level. And then you look further down, the likes of Adam Blocker, Justin Tipton there, Twyne Tran, of course, a race winner this season. And you look at the likes of Mark Chorley and Carl Dronke there, 18th, 19th, Houseman in 20th. It's only a 25-car grid here today, so a lot smaller than what we normally know, and that's going to mean that turn 1's going to be that little bit easier. We're looking at maybe 2012 Formula 1 numbers.
Yeah. And I also feel sorry for you about your voice today. No shouting from Jake, ladies and gentlemen. Some people will be happy with that. I'm not. So I know your flatmates might be a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, they may be. Yeah. But, you know, that's another story.
Yeah. 23 drivers qualified, 2 drivers didn't. Fahim Atanides will be starting from the rear of the field by the looks of it. So to the front of the field, we are going to head ourselves in just a moment's time. There we are. We can see it now up on your screen. Laps today, there's 23 of them. That's what the drivers will be doing here at fantastic, beautiful Circuit of the Americas. As Jake said, aim of the race, save fuel, and then try and save just a little bit more afterwards. Of course, the first part of that is going to be surviving turn number 1, surviving the first section of this racetrack. And as I said at the top of the broadcast, there's no run down to turn 12 to help you today. So that means that you're going to have to do all your passing really down at turn number 1, or be a bit like Max Verstappen. Just make sure you don't get all 4 wheels off the track down at turn number 18. Drivers are now lined up waiting on one or two more, and then we'll be ready to go racing here at Circuit of the Americas. This is RaceSpotTV prime time. It is the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. The lights go on top of the iRacing.com gantry. We get ready for racing here at Circuit of the Americas. Lights go on. The lights go green. We're racing. A bit of a slow start down the rear end of your field, but out the front, you've got yourself status quo for the time being in towards turn number 1. The drivers will head themselves for the first time. Paul Malocas is actually going to be under attack there by Johnny Gwindi as they work through turn number 1 for the first time. Johnny Gwindi will take the race lead away then, and Felipe Barber moves himself up into second place as well. So not a good start there by the driver of Paul Malocas. He's fallen down from P number 1 down into P number 3 in the space of the first couple of corners. Behind, keeping an eye out, everyone seems as though they're able to negotiate these opening sequences of corners, and that means no caution in this event. And that was one of the things in the back of our head. Will we see a yellow here today? The answer looks as though it's going to be a no, Jake.
I thought there may have been a chance as Bastian Hausmann and Chris Malcolm had a massive incident on the run into turn number 1, but they managed to just keep out of the way of everyone. Anthony Pat, the only other casualty, as there was a big lunge from Malocas there into the right-hander as they now head through this technical section number 3, you could argue, of the circuit, where it's very stop and start before they then get themselves on towards the right-handers. But TT Racing 1 and 2, Gwindi and Barber, and that was crucial for them because they can just break away with the Freighter in 4th, and then if Barber gets a victory, he takes some points away, including the drop weeks, and starts to close that gap down to the Freighter. Yeah, there's a look though on board with Felipe Barber right now in that number 2 machine. Ahead of him is the driver of Johnny Gwindi, and from behind there you can see Paul Malocas in the 3rd place right now. Iron the Freighter has moved himself up 1 position. He now runs himself in the 4th spot in this event. Early casualties, well, Chris Malcolm is out. He's on pit road. Enzo Cantor started from the rear of the field in this motor race. So lap number 1 is scored complete on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, you can view live timing and scoring. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing and get social with us on social media as well. On Facebook /RaceSpotTV, on Twitter @RaceSpotTV. Having looked down your field, you've got a couple of early battles going on. My eye just turned over to Carl Dronke versus Rob Adams there for 13th place. And it seems to be we haven't really got too much in forms of massive packs. We've got 1 or 2 drivers in the mid-pack, then 1 or 2 drivers, then 1 or 2 drivers. Yeah, this circuit doesn't have the same sort of nature that increment pack racing, so you have to be very careful about the way that you really battle here, as now Rylance will go down to the inside of Carl Dronke, and Dronke, well, for all the love and money in the world, he's going to look to get the up and under, but he'll have to do it the long way round at an ex-right-hander at turn 13. That's not going to work, so he's going to be stuck there now with Gordon Ramsay just behind him, and Fahim Antonides on the recovery. But this is the sort of race you've got to be careful about, because the moment that you start not making moves, you're going backwards in this event. You can very easily drop 4 or 5 positions. Take Mick Watson in the 666, for example. He's already up 4 today, making massive inroads. Take someone like Tuan Tran. He's already -5.
Yep, Gordon Ramsay then, P number 16 in the 119 machine, starting to put a bit of pressure on Carl Dronke as we speak. We have got a couple of movers and shakers so far on this motor race. We'll update you on that one in a moment. I did turn my attention back to Iron the Freighter a moment ago because he is still within touching distance of your leaders. P number 1 and 2 separated by 3 tenths of a second. P number 2 to 3 separated by the same distance, 3 to 4. That is currently 3.5 tenths of a second. The Freighter then closing up a little bit over Paul Malocas in towards 1 as Brian Dewell behind has had himself a moment. Let's have a look then. Brian Dewell, he's either gone wide or he's looped it. Oh, he's completely off the track then. So something's happened with Brian Dewell. Here's a replay up on your screen. And let's have a look for Brian Dewell and see what happened in that number 88 machine. And Jake, talk us through it.
That is a massive, massive moment he had with Stephen Stoyles. Stoyles went sending one, charging down the inside of him into turn number 1, and just didn't have enough to stop the machine. Dewell was an innocent bystander, trying to just shut the door on him, and, well, he loses a couple of positions, and very unfairly, I may add.
Yeah, there's one more look then we're going to have on board with the driver of Brian Dewell. And then after that, I want to show you, I believe it was Chris Malcolm then, who also came out on track and was kind of doing a bit more rallycross than anything, trying to get onto the rallycross game early here. There you can see Brian Dewell in his moment, and there's Chris Malcolm. I think he was just trying to keep out of he was just trying to keep out of everyone's way, because there is a field of drivers coming up behind him, and Chris Malcolm's like, you know what? I'm not quite sure. In fact, he overshot the corner to start with. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of ride in the dirt for a little bit, let everyone go past me. So that's an update then, as we're now on lap number 3 of 23 here at Circuit of the Americas. Through the final corner then, once again. Let's go back on board with the driver of Ariane de Freitas versus Paul Malocas, and nothing's really going to happen on the run down in towards turn number 1 between these two drivers. Adam Blocker versus Mick Watson is going on, but also we've got something for the race lead there. Philippe Leber had a half little move in towards turn number 1, didn't do anything on the end in terms of Blocker versus Mick Watson. I'm not sure whether Blocker's going to, he's not going to get there in towards turn number 1.
No, he's not, and he's lost that position as well to the driver of Mick Watson, so he'll be hoping to get back at him, as Brian Dewell will be the next challenge for Mick Watson to get through, and then Justin Tipton on top of that. Mick Watson definitely making progress. It's clearly, though, a 4-car breakaway at the front of the field, 2 seconds back to Stephen Stoyles, Francois Boulian, Andrew Picario et al. In that situation. So I think a lot of drivers are understanding in this early stage, you've got to find a pack, you've got to be happy in that pack, and if you're not happy in that pack, you've got to go and chase, but you can't chase it on your own here. You're very much at the whim of momentum, and that's what I think everyone's got to be a little bit careful of. De Freitas and Malocas, Leber and Gowindi. It's TNT versus ERT. About a year and a half ago, that's Positive Sim Racing versus TNT Racing.
Yeah, and of course, whilst you're doing all of that, you've got to save fuel. We go on board with Andrew Picario right now in the number 168 machine, as he is just behind Francois Boulian in the Orion race team car, working themselves through turn number 18 as we speak. And as I said earlier, we're just going to use normal turn numbers here at COTA. No point trying to confuse ourselves with what turn number 18 translates into on the West Circuit. Down towards then, final corner, Andrew Picario, nothing really happening between these guys just yet, although Francois Boulian does get a good run as the drivers will navigate themselves out the final corner towards turn number 1 once again. Has Francois Boulian got enough momentum to try and sling it down the inside of Stephen Stoyles, maybe repay the favour that happened, of course, earlier on in this event? What's going on, Jay? Oh, we've got side-by-side Leber.
Hello, and now 3 wide for second as Ariane de Freitas wants to get down to the inside. Malocas looked at the race lead into turn 1, out of turn 1, he's suddenly back in 4th position. It's just like that.
Yeah, so all of a sudden there is 1, 2, 3 wide in towards turn number 1. Number 4 machine down on the inside. Paul Malocas in the middle was the number 2 car of Philippe Leber on the inside. Well, outside then inside was the driver of Johnny Gowindi. Gowindi then leads this motor race, as there was also a battle going on behind as well. Paul Malocas moves up ahead of the driver of Stephen Stoyles. We'll show that onto you again on replay in just 1 moment's time. Outside line, braking later. Sometimes the outside line in a car like this in particular does work very well, because it means you basically got the entire runoff area as your safety net. And let's have a look then at what's the situation behind. They also went 3 wide in towards, that's a battle for the front, and then here's the battle then, P number 4, 5, 6 on track. And you can see that there was a bit of a half move there going on the outside. Boulian versus the driver of Stephen Stoyles. Bit of action all of a sudden. Leber right behind Johnny Gowindi as well as they come down into 19.
Yeah, a lot of action going on then up and down the field. Andrew Picario as well. I think he's got suspension damage or something, because he had contact with the likes of Stoyles and Boulian, and he was the innocent bystander, and he'll have to come down, dive onto the lane. He'll get his 1 fast repair out of the way on lap 5. That's not safe enough, though, for him. He's not going to be able to get there on 1 tank of fuel otherwise. He's now going to have to do a second stop side by side for the race lead. Leber on the outside, Gowindi on the inside in towards turn number 1, and Leber is going to try and up and under off of the exit, get a better run of momentum. He does. He tries to force one down to the inside. No nonsense there with Johnny Gowindi, and he gets pinched on the exit there, allowing De Freitas to go through the teammate's touch.
And Philippe Leber hits the wall, hits the Armco barrier, is around and is out.
And just like that, the championship fades before his very eyes. And it's apt that we're in America, because there is a boulevard of broken dreams for Philippe Leber, and there's not much more you can say about that.
Yeah, there's a replay. 1 hit, and I think if he had just was about 2-3 meters further forward, he might have been able to avoid hitting the barrier there. It's just the worst point of making contact, because you see, there he is, he starts spinning, it'll be now. So that's when the instant start the drift, and just as he's trying to get the car straightened out, it's just that point where that section of the Armco barrier ends, but Philippe Barber out of this motor race. In pretty much all intents and purposes, he is trying to bring that car back around right now, but he's down in P number 21. Johnny Guindi versus Arjen de Freitas is your new battle for the race lead, and then you've got yourself Francois Boullion versus Steven Stoyles as well going on for P number 4. So battles brewing.
Oh, they certainly are brewing, and it's a very, very violent concoction if that last lap was anything to go by. So gotta go careful, and running wide off the exit there was Stoyles trying to get a run on Francois Boullion, and right now it's about Boullion and how he manages to negotiate the rest of this race. He's got to make sure that he tries to work to get back up to the front of that train that is just there. Stoyles will go the long way around, and in fact will actually lose a chance on the exit to Tyler Hervius, who is brand new to the series, and absolutely beautiful move from Hervius, about as easy as you're ever going to make them.
Yeah, so move Hervius up then into the 5th position on track right now. And yeah, we don't know that much about the New York driver in that number 121 machine of Tyler Hervius, but he's running well here today as they just make the move. A bit of a drift there by Francois Boullion. That will give a half opening to Hervius as they will come down towards turn number 12. The issue is, Jake, you don't have the kind of run. You don't have that long straightaway as you would normally have to really make the move happen down into 12.
No, you don't, and I think you have to really rely on that momentum through that left-right section before heading into that long left-hander, and then onto the brakes into turn number 12. You've just got to make sure that you make it happen, as Hervius has another little look down in towards 16, and it doesn't quite work out the way that you would have designed it and would have hoped it. So now he's starting to think about, where can I start making this move? Where can I start applying that pressure? Where can I start making sure that Francois Boullion is not comfortable in any corner, in any given situation? Into the left-hander again, another half look that maybe compromises his line a little bit, but it doesn't matter because he has the draft and the overspeed to always fight it back. Big missed line into the final corner, loses about half a second, but that's okay. He's got an entire straight now to make that up.
He has indeed, but Steven Stoyles did look very close actually on the run down in towards turn number 1. They will come once again, and Steven Stoyles, is he going to sling it down the inside? He's done it once already today, covered that move, did Tyler Hervius, but now they all losing time because they're trying to cover and play that cover defense. But as they do so, they're just allowing Francois Boullion to pull out more of a gap. He's gained 8 tenths of a second and half a lap right now, as P5, 6 and 7 has really bunched itself up. Just to let you know, out front, Arjen de Freitas still battling out with Johnny Guindi for the race lead.
Yeah, he certainly is at the moment, and he's doing a very good job of holding on to Johnny Guindi. I thought he'd try and break away when he pulled half a second out, but Arjen de Freitas not going to let him have any sort of space at all, as he looks to try and assert himself as the alpha male at the front of the field. And Johnny Guindi right now, you would have to say in this situation, is just hoping to try and score some very, very solid points and some very solid results on top of that as well. He got a win earlier on this season at Oran Park Raceway. He wants to try and get a second win when it comes to this season. And you know what? I think this is probably going to be his best opportunity all year.
Yeah, just give you an update on some of the retirees out of this event today. We have got Chris Malcolm, Philippe Barber, extended stint on pit road right now. Andreas Robertson, he's back out on track, classified as 1 lap down. As we've also got Andrew Pecori and Anthony Catt. They are both classified towards the rear of the field following incidents, but only 2 drivers officially classified as out of this event right now. Rylance versus Brian Dewell on the running towards turn number 1. Let's go on board of him for a moment. Rylance moving down to the inside. And the pass. Nice and easy there by the looks of it. Should be, yeah, he does hit the brakes, so that was easy then. moves himself ahead of Brian Dewell. We've got Francois Boulien, though. He's under attack. He's being passed there by Tyler Herviers. Herviers will be on the outside as they come through the S's. They'll stay side by side for the moment. Francois Boulien just able to hold on, but this one isn't over. Let's go and have a look from the rear of Francois Boulien, because now he's under attack again from this huge gaggle of cars.
Exactly, and it only grows more and more. And that's a vehicle off there in a very weird position, and that's Paul Malocus of all people. Paul Malocus off, massive spin. Well, that was the freighter going through for the race lead. Guindy shutting the door, and Malocus getting all over the curbs, out of shape, unsettled vehicle, does a massive donut to get back going. And I have to say, he's very grateful for those tyres being as massive as they are.
Yep, here's the look, and you see no contact. Malocus was thinking a movement's going to happen, a moment even. Hi, COTA, as we can just see there, Malocus does the donut. I mean, to be fair, probably at the best place possible for him, because it's where the west track meets the main track once again, so he doesn't lose too much, but he has lost 6 places overall. Iron Freighter versus Johnny Guindy, though, that is still going for the race lead. The gap between them, though, and P number 3 is up to 4.7 seconds.
Well, that's just showing you just how easy it is to get drawn into battles. And when you do get drawn into battles here, Will, you have to be an incredibly crafty man to continue to gain pace and gain speed, as Guindy takes a massive, massive line into the corner, but sacrifices all momentum out of it. But behind that, you still look at the likes of Tipton, Rylance, the same sort of group of TT Racing, the sort of B team, you could argue at times, starting now to have to take effect, because they're missing their main man in the driver of Philippe Laibert. And, well, they're just stuck. You got Stoyles, Herviers, Boulien. It's so difficult to get to the front of the field, especially when most corners are one-line suits all and passing corners for about half the lap.
Yeah, and that's the issue with this west version of the racetrack. You don't have those long straightaways, which does put passing more at a premium, as you see your gaggle of drivers heading themselves through turn number 12. Turn 12 towards the end of the race, well, sorry, in terms of the end of the track, is exactly the same. You just skip out. And I actually don't understand in some ways why the west track even exists, Jake, because you're missing what I think is one of the most important features of COTA, that long straightaway.
Exactly, and I think that there are some elements to it. I think that part of the reason why COTA West does exist is to promote maybe smaller formula races, very similar to the example of Brands Hatch having an Indy circuit, very similar to the fact of Silverstone having a national circuit or a southern circuit or whatever sort of circuit. I think a lot of series can learn and develop from having certain areas, and certain machines like a Skip Barber can sometimes fall afoul of being swamped on a straight and basically spending half a minute just sitting at full throttle, and sometimes for drivers that's not the exciting part of a race. So they shorten the track, they make it a lot better, they make it a lot more difficult, I think, for drivers to overtake, and it means that more class has to be shown in lower formulas.
Brian Dewell's on pit road. First major taker on towards pit road today. So he is then into his pit stall. Let's keep an eye out. Let's say you generally expect around 12 to 14 seconds for a pit stop here. And we can just see, ticking over, 14.2 seconds. Out of the way will go Brian Dewell then in that number 88 machine. I am just wondering in the back of my head, Jake, how many people are doing this whole fuel saving game, do you think?
That's a difficult suggestion, because it depends on who wants to be gaining positions up through the field. I don't think someone like Herviers is. I think Stoyles is. Boulien is being forced not to in certain situations right now, but definitely Tipton and Rylance I'd definitely put to it. And I'd say De Freitas thought about it, and now Johnny Guindy's just going to sit there and wait at the front of the field, play that game, wait that game, and hope to get a good run in towards turn number 1, where if he's the second man to pit in, he knows he's got an advantage.
Yeah, indeed. So having a look then at Stephen Stoyles versus Tyler Herviers. Herviers has been up and down a little bit today, but he's remained inside your top 7 drivers pretty much all race long, and they'll come through 19 once again. No one in this gaggle of cars looking as though they're going to make the dance on towards pit road. Through turn number 20 they come up. We actually have got one of them coming on towards pit road. Just saw it on the rear end of my shot. That is Paul Malocus. He is coming in then and he's decided that he's had enough and he would rather just take his pit stop, get it out of the way. That can be, in a pack situation, Jake, a good idea, especially if you think you've got the pure race speed. And of course, Malokas, we've got to think about what happened with his tyres earlier on.
Yeah, you certainly do, especially with the fact that he won't be changing them at any stage, but he'll definitely have a little bit more wear in comparison to everyone else after he maybe put a nice donut on the ring for someone to come and try and grab afterwards. But easy out and away, and a short out and away as well from Paul Malokas gets himself going. And where is he in comparison to, say, Brian Duell, I think is the bigger question, and is a mile, I think, is the comparison we're looking for.
Yes, and here is a look at the gap then. 6.666 seconds. Well, our timing and scoring screen is showing that one a bit strangely, but yeah, he is ahead as we speak right now. Paul Malokas over Brian Duell, and 6 seconds, well, that was a gain by Paul Malokas. And having a look at the comparable times, he was 3 seconds faster. In fact, we haven't unfortunately got the full pit stop time for Brian Duell, because it looks as though the system glitching means that we've just got a 2.3 seconds, and if you're going to be 2.3 seconds on pit road, you know, there's a bigger issue in play. But let's have a look towards the front of your field. Hervius versus Stoyles then. What will be worth noting is, does any of this group come in? Yeah, Johnny Gawindi will come in from your race lead. I was thinking, is anyone trying to cover Paul Malokas, or expecting everyone's trying to come on towards pit road this time by? And Gawindi comes down. And we've also got Francois Boulien on the lane at the same time.
Yeah, we do, and what we are seeing is also Adam Blocker and Mick Watson. So drivers thinking now, lap 12 or 23, we're getting towards the end of the cycle. We only need so much fuel. We've got to go and save it. We've got to get going. Malokas is making his way through traffic. The likes of Tran, he's easily made a way through. Precario maybe is the next vehicle that he's got to start negotiating, worrying about, and vehicles will be looking to try and get out and away as quickly as they possibly can. There goes Gawindi then, the race leader incarnate as things stand. Mr. Two Shoes, the Mexican driver, gets himself in a nice little spot of clean air, he thought, in towards turn number 1, but the room was going to be given on the exit by Bastian Hausmann, who now wants a fight.
Yeah, Francois Boulien does his pit stop. A long stop, actually, for Boulien, which is why Adam Blocker is now right behind him. Blocker doing a 12.1 second pit stop. They both, however, end up ahead of the driver of Brian Duell. Back towards the front part of your field for a moment. We've got Steven Stalls in second place, Tyler Hervius in the third position. Adam Riley is right behind the two going on there. Enzo Cantor and Johnny Gawindi have both pitted. Johnny Gawindi right now is in P number 11. Worth noting that Enzo Cantor pitted a long time ago. In fact, he started on pit road, which is why it's showing him as having a pit stop on live timing and scoring here on RaceSpotTV. Just having a look, does anyone coming towards pit road? Yes, we're going to get one more driver in this time by. That'll be the driver of Tyler Hervius. There's a little bit of, shall we go in? Shall we not go in? Shall we go together? Shall we not go together? Hervius decides to come in by himself. And Justin Tipton also on towards pit road.
After you, my lord. No, after you, my lord, I think is what we're trying to establish in this situation. So Tipton in, Hervius in, and Hervius needing to come out ideally in a very nice situation. Francois Boulien, I think, is the driver he wants to be up there against and going side by side. Boulien now heading through the final corner, looking to get his run through in towards turn at number 1 right about now. And the question is, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to be? Well, Cantor's coming out of the lane, or coming into the lane, shall we say. Tipton's out. Dronke's out. Dronke's clips quite a few people in that stop.
Yeah, indeed. There is Hervius, by the way, out of the way. 14.1 second. Andrew Pecora, 8.5 seconds. That's the reason why he's at the front of this gaggle of cars for the time being, because he had basically put the boots on as quickly as possible. By boots, of course, I mean fuel, because there is no boots changed in this series, of course. It is fuel only these drivers will take. Bit of a wiggle by Arjen de Freitas as he works himself through turn number 18 once again. We'll give you a full rundown on pit stops in just one moment's time here on RaceSpotTV. We've seen a couple of them happen. We've got ourselves Johnny Gawindi, of course, as the highest placed driver of those who have pitted. Arjen de Freitas does, however, come on towards pit road this time by. So now the battle for the over a race lead gets a bit more interesting. That was very slow in. I have to say, that was slow on towards pit road by De Freitas.
It was. He almost second-guessed where the line was when he tried to get himself down in, even though there's a few yellow cones, maybe a bit of depth perception issue that he's had. Behind him, Ryland's in with Stoyles, so almost side by side. So now it relies on Johnny Gawindi and how well he can make the run. And Gawindi looks like he's been wringing the neck out of that TT racing machine, Will.
Yeah. So there is then the pit stop for Arjen De Freitas. How long is it going to be for him? Steven Stoyles and Adam Rylands are also on pit road. 13.4 seconds then from Arjen De Freitas. Away he goes, but the question is, what about the battle for the race lead? It's going to be close. Johnny Gawindi's on the outside as they come in towards turn number 1, side by side for the race lead. Who will have the advantage coming out the corner? It's going to be Arjen De Freitas for the moment. Arjen De Freitas will just beat off Johnny Gawindi there. And I tell you one thing, it looked like a slow pit stop. It wasn't as slow as Johnny Gawindi's. It was 39-second end to end, but the pit stop 0.2 of a second faster than Johnny Gawindi. That was a 0.2 of a second that made that battle for the race lead go in favour of Arjen De Freitas. Just was all it needed to be in that situation. And the trainer 2 now goes between the reigning champion and championship leader and the young pretender, you could argue, in 2 shoes, Johnny Gawindi, as they keep on making those runs. This is a coming-of-age battle here. It's not a case of runaway on an endurance race. Right now, behind that, you've also got Stoyles, Hervius down to the inside, trying to make something happen, and that's straight on from Steven Stoyles, and that's bizarre. Yeah, I was just about to talk about as well the fact that we had Paul Malokas, through all of that, be able to move himself back up into the 3rd position. Let's see if we can get ourselves a replay of Steven Stoyles and see what's happened here.
I think it's contact from behind, Will. I think he gets damage on the rear and is unable to turn that vehicle or something, and it's a very weird situation where the vehicle just goes straight on. It might be a hardware failure of some sort, where the steering column's broke or something. Yeah,
I think so. Gawindi versus De Freitas. We're now into that. Okay, we should probably just sit down here, wait for a few laps, let everyone else behind us drift off too far away and then go racing. Or we can have Johnny Gawindi saying, you know what, I want to go for the race lead now in towards turn number 1. A bit of a wiggle round the outside will go that driver of Johnny Gawindi, but he cannot make it work over Arjen De Freitas. Behind Tyler Hervius versus Adam Rylands. That is going on right now, and Hervius will not be able to make the move work initially and has to fall back into line. So he cannot then hold the outside line through 2 in towards turn number 3. Lots of things happening in short spaces of time here at Circuit of the Americas. Everyone now has done a pit stop, and now we can show you who's gained and who's lost through the sequence of pit stops. And you've got to give credit to number 18 machine of Adam Rylands and the number 118 machine up 18 positions here today. Fahim Atinides has only worked himself up into 13th place, but he's your 2nd biggest mover inside the top 15, Jake.
It's unbelievable, especially when you don't set a lap time. You can just charge your way through the field and only be 8 seconds off the lead after 25 minutes worth of action. I have to say credit as they're side by side again between Gawindi and De Freitas coming out of turn number 18. No chance for the Verstappen move into the right-hander. Not enough pace to make that happen, but this is the thing. You start making moves, you start making a name for yourself. Boulian tries around the outside of Hervius, and it's a brave man's game to try and do it around the outside. He has to tuck right in underneath and try and make it happen, but that's the thing. You're always trying to make a move. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it does, and it's all about the waiting process that you have available to you.
Yeah, indeed, sir, and it's worth noting, of course, Arjen De Freitas is up 4 places in this event. We talked about it in qualifying. Could the likes of Philippe Barber, for example, close the gap in the championship standings? Well, the answer is no, because of the fact that Philippe Barber is now out of this event. But it's also worth noting that, you know, a lot has happened, a lot of change in this motor race since the start because of incidents at the very front. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Pro Series of Road Racing will continue on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Race number 2, we head ourselves to Canada and to Montreal for what could be a fantastic afternoon's worth of racing. The day before, RaceSpot Primetime heads itself to Montreal also. And we've got ourselves the iRacing Grand Prix Series, Jake.
And that's a fantastic series that is I'd be the perfect prelude, you could argue, to the road to pro, and everyone trying to get that last bit of practice, maybe a bit of real-world experience, see how the competition is really faring up before you get into a situation where you're putting points on the line, your championship stakes on the line. And I think a lot of teams are hoping to try and get in, and it's amazing to see just how many efforts of drivers that you've seen all throughout the year finally culminates at the road to pro. The final challenge of all the worthy sim racers standing at the bottom of the hill thinking, I could be Martin Kroenke one day.
Yeah, the only bad thing about what you just said is you said the word steaks, and now I'm hungry, so thank you.
No worries.
Neil Bontemps, so just have a look at the rear of the field here versus Mark Jewley. Bontemps is trying to get himself a little bit higher up inside your top 20 right now. Gap is just under 1 second between these two drivers. Ahead, Rob Adams versus Fahim Atanides as well. Atanides, of course, slowly working himself through the field here after starting at the rear. Atanides now up into P number 13. Rob Adams even still remains in that 14th position. Further ahead, Brian Dewell going side by side with Adam Blocker down in towards turn number 1. And the winner of that battle is going to be Brian Dewell versus Blocker there. Although Blocker is going to have the opportunity of working himself around the outside through turn number 2, giving him the inside line in towards turn number 3. And no, Blocker can't do it there.
No, Adam Blocker certainly can't, and well, it doesn't matter how much experience you have in an Indy car, when you go back to basics like this, Adam Blocker needs to know that sometimes that big run coming off the corner just sometimes doesn't happen, and now has Tipton all over the rear trying to make anything happen. Side by side just in front, Boulian and Hervius, and they touch wheels, they bang wheels as they head themselves to 13, and well, Boulian's going to steal it, but that was very, very close quarters, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to show here on replay, because it looks as though that Paul Malocus has fallen down into the 4th position. So here's a look then, Malocus versus Picario. So I just want to have a look then on board with that driver of Picario and show you what's happened here, because Malocus has fallen down in position. Then after that, we are going to show you what happened with Francois Boulian and Tyler Hervius. So here is Picario. We're on board of him now. Malocus makes, I believe, a mistake somewhere just to push wide. And this is Picario actually gets a much better run on the exit of the rejoin part of the track in towards turn number 12. Then let's have a look at Francois Boulian. This is a side-by-side moment with Tyler Hervius. And it looks like Boulian kind of came across there, that driver of Hervius. Hervius has, however, just moved himself back ahead of Boulian.
Yes, and has made very good progress to make that position back, fighting for 6th position, but it's not over and done with. Boulian on the outside with the inside line, heading through the S's section into the long left-hander, and you can see Hervius not wanting any of it, has to back out of it, and decides, I will fight another day. Still go Indy versus De Freitas, though. When they cross the line, 4 laps to go in this event, and you say Arjen De Freitas right now is probably in the best position. I think Johnny Go-Indy knows that he's got to be at the front to defend into turn number 1 on the final lap.
Yeah, as there's a look at the lap comparisons there between Francois Boulian and Tyler Hervius, and it does look as though Hervius just is staying with Boulian. It's worth noting, though, they have lost time now to Adam Rylant at Al, Paul Malocus, Andrew Picario, but we are coming down to the last few laps here in this motor race. There'll be 4 to go at the line. We're on board with Johnny Go-Indy right now as he is trying to stay in contact with Arjen De Freitas. Of course, well, we thought Go-Indy versus De Freitas was going to be close. It was very close out of pit lane. They were side by side heading towards turn number 1, despite the fact that Johnny Go-Indy had, of course, the overspeed by being able to have this straight to build up the momentum in towards that first corner. Arjen De Freitas with the tighter inside line just managed to make it work for him, Jake.
Yeah, he did, and I think the corner naturally opens itself up to a lot of defenses, some very aggressive ones and very defensive aggressives in term defensive aggressives. That's the biggest double negative I think I could have ever put in my entire life, and I think I will be assassinated at some stage for that. But What I'm trying to get at here is that there are a lot of places where you can very easily make a nice safe defense and a very difficult and more challenging defense, and I think we're seeing the best of both worlds from De Freitas and Gowindi, and I think both of them aren't too scared to really fight it, but Gowindi is really fighting against that vehicle at every single given moment. He tries to make the move.
Adam Blocker versus Brian Dewell. That one has been going on once again. Blocker versus Dewell was side by side through sector number 1. Blocker's fallen back down into 8th position. Dewell up into P number 7. Blocker looks himself to the inside line down in towards turn number 12, but can't really get any momentum to do anything. It was just a kind of play fake dummy that you often see, especially towards the end of the motor race. So Francois Boulien versus Tyler Herviers. That's happening for P number 5 and 6. Brian Dewell versus Adam Blocker. That's going on for P number 7 and 8 right now. Mick Watson versus Carl Dronke. That's going on for P number 10 and 11. You got yourself Andrew Picorio. He's just made a second pit stop on this motor race, and he's now about just ahead of Enzo Cantor. So Cantor might be looking to try and do something there. And then, of course, finally, you got your battle for your race lead and your battle for P number 3 and 4. So lots of, as I said earlier, micro battles going on here today as we come down to 3 to go. On board Milokas versus Adam Rylance.
On board, definitely indeed, and well, the battle going on for the podium. Rylance knows he wants to break the Evolution Racing Team stranglehold with 2 on the podium right now, and wants to make it 2 TT drivers, and very, very loose in through turn number 1 was Paul Malokas. That's going to allow Rylance a good run in through 3 to really set up the opportunity in through the S's section. Looks to the outside, won't be able to make the move, but he can run very close on a run towards 12 and 13.
You can indeed. That is how close they are right now. You've got Picorio, by the way. He has just lost that position to Enzo Cantor. For those of you keeping up to date with Picorio and Cantor in that battle, we'll get ourselves a quick replay of that one. In fact, no, they're side by side once again. So we'll just stick it with the live photos for the moment. And you can see Picorio versus Cantor. Well, Picorio has now pretty much conceded that position for the time being. Rylance versus Paul Malokas remains, with Malokas now 3rd place. Rylance down in P number 4 with 2.5 to go.
Well, I don't know which position you'd rather be in here in this situation, Will, but on a circuit which has been available for overtakes but not necessarily brilliant, Adam Rylance to go from 2nd last on the grid to thinking about getting a podium. It's almost unheard of in a race like this, and Adam Rylance has proven that you don't need pace and you don't need qualifying. He runs very wide off of the exit. We'll look to dive one down to the inside potentially. That final corner is also an overtaking opportunity waiting to happen.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is as well? Is that Rylance, his pit stop was 4 seconds longer than Paul Malokas, and he was, well, as a consequence, 4 seconds longer on the lane as well. So Rylance, I am being serious about this. If he had had a faster pit stop, would be in 3rd place, about 2 seconds behind your race-leading duo.
If that, because he may have had the draft of that situation. If he had got the perfect situation, he would have been there, train of 3, Gowindi working with him, De Freitas would have been boxed out, and who knows, he may have even won the race if you see the situation at the sunny side end of it. So right now, Rylance only fighting for a bronze medal. It could have been a gold.
It could well have been indeed, as Picorio versus Cantor, that one's just changed again as we go back to have a look at Aaron De Freitas versus the driver of Johnny Gowindi right now, as Gowindi remains in that 2nd place. There's the last 3 lap times, pretty much status quo. Pretty much in this stage, Gowindi's waiting for that moment to pounce. But do you pounce at turn 20 this lap? Do you pounce at turn number 1 of the next lap? When do you make the pass if you're going to make it happen, Jake?
Well, you've got to be close enough first and foremost, and Johnny Gowindi actually starting to fall back a little bit here in the battle between himself and Aaron De Freitas, and that's going to be a really worrying prospect for him, because he knows that he's got to be within at least 0.2 of a second, if not a 1/10.5, if he wants to have a chance at really making a crack at Aaron De Freitas. Rounds the final corner, 1 lap to go, white flag lap coming out this time by, and he's not close enough, and Aaron De Freitas needs to run for the hills, the border off of Texas into Alabama State. It's got to be a run.
Yeah, as here is Gowindi then, nowhere near close enough. he would have to literally sling it down the inside from 4 car lengths back, and he's not going to do that. He does close up, though, through turn number 1. We go on board of him once again. Final lap here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live, the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. And last time by, he did lose 0.2 of a second, did that driver of Johnny Gowindi. So here we are, final lap then. What's going to happen as they work themselves through? Behind, Malokas is in 3rd place. Adam Rylance in 4th. That's what I want to keep an eye on. Herbies is back ahead of Francois Boulien. That's one that we need to keep an eye out on as well. If anything changes, we will let you know. Tipton versus the driver of Brian Dewell. That's one that's going on as we speak as well. In fact, you've got Adam Blocker and Mick Watson potentially can make that a 4-car situation towards the end of this event. Back on board one more time, Johnny Gowindi. He's not been able to do anything, and I would say at this stage, unless he is a mistake by Ariane de Freitas, Johnny Gowindi has not got the legs to win this motor race. Adam Rylance versus Paul Malokas. They are just behind right now. Malokas holding on to that 3rd position. Rylance struggling to find an avenue, a way through as they work themselves through turn number 16. Here is Ariane de Freitas then, working himself through turn number 19 for the final time, and he works himself in towards 20 for the final time. It'll be Ariane de Freitas who will score a victory here on Sunday night, Skippies, the 2K World Cup. That'll be Ariane de Freitas. They are side by side though, behind for 3rd place. Malokas versus Adam Rylance, and at the line, who's going to get it? It's going to be, I think, Paul Malokas, but that was a photo finish. 1/1000th of a second for P number 3.
If that, Will. I've got equal timings here on my screen. My goodness, what a scrap to the end between the pair of them. And I think we need an ultra slow-mo to see who's got the inch in front of everybody else, who's put an extra layer of paint on their front nose, and the answer is Paul Malokas, very simply put.
Yeah, there's a look at these two drivers. You can see they're side by side into 19, side by side out of 20. And let's see how close we can get there. You can see just after the start-finish line, there was still pretty much nose to tail. But that is Paul Malokas then. He does just, and I mean just, get ahead of that driver of Adam Rylance, and I make it 1/1000th of a second. Timing and scoring does of course measure just 3 decimal points, but I would say that one is very, very close. And here's a look then as they cross the start finish line, and there is a look. A couple of inches at the very, very most, I would say, for that one. Tyler Hervius, by the way, scored his little victory over Francois Boulien. They've been battling it out for most of the afternoon. Dewell, Tipton, Blocker, Mick Watson. We expected something close between them. Nothing happened. But, of course, we had that fantastic run to the flag for 3rd place. And here's a look, then, at your final race result. Ariane de Freitas, 0.6 of a second. He wins over Johnny Gowindi. Paul Malokas and Adam Rylance, 1/1000th of a second at the line. Photo finish cameras aplomb there. 5th place, Tyler Hervius. Francois Boulien in 6th, Brian Dewell 7th, Justin Tipton in 8th, Adam Blocker in 9th, and Mick Watson rounding out your top 10. There's a look then at the rest of the results. Biggest story out of today, Jake, I would say, is going to be the fact that Adam Rylance came within 1/1000th of a second from going from the rear of the grid to the podium.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic drive from Adam Rylance, and take no credit away from him. He's deserved to make all the positions that he's done through some very dedicated and quick-witted driving in a field that hasn't been all blown out of proportion. He had to work hard and scrap and claw and fight and tooth his way through every single position. And you have to say, driver of the day candidate, yes, he got the better run out of turn number 20, but Paul Malokas proves an extra bit of paint. It's an ERT livery. They always have an extra bit of paint.
Yeah. Philippe Leber, of course, that's your other big story of the day. He's down in P number 24. That will solidify the championship for Ariane de Freitas. We're going to step aside for a moment here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Interviews when we get back. Something like Skippy, it's just like Jake's voice, is in the books then. It's done for another round. 2 more rounds remain in the championship. Iron Defrator is your winner here today. We're going to talk to him in just one moment's time. But Jake, in terms of the championship now, you know, this really is a case of welcome to the Defrator show.
Yeah, it's a new era of dominance that you have to feel out of Arian, and there's not much more that you can really say about it other than Philippe Laibert is maybe starting to see his grasp slowly slip away on the championships because he's just not finding the same level of consistency Defrator is. It doesn't matter if he wins or he finishes second place every single race.
Yeah.
He's always up there in a scrap for a win, and that's something that I think every other driver in this field can't attribute and put their name to.
So we are going to have a chat, as you say, to that driver of Iron Defrator who won the race here today. We just need to get the graphics ready. So in the meantime, here's some Something Like Skippy's music. Iron Defrator, you win big here today. In what, from P number 5 up to the race victory. It took a lot of work. There was a bit of a controversial moment in there as well, but talk us through your race.
Yeah, what should I say? I messed up my qualifying. It's so easy to get an off track here, and I had an off track on my first lap, so I had to take it a bit easy on my second lap, and I did a bit too much, hence the 5th place. But yeah, I was pretty happy having PJ here for the team assistance a bit. He qualified on pole, so that took some points away from Philippe, so I was pretty happy about that already. So yeah, and Brian, obviously old teammates, are still friends, so he kind of handed me the inside line there. And from there on, we were trying to get away, the 4 of us, I think. Yeah, then into turn 1, it's so wide there, so you can take so much different lines. But in the end, it squeezes, so it's always having the inside line might help with the overtake, but it compromises your exit. And you saw what happened to PJ there. So that handed me 3rd position, and I had such a good run. But I was trying to make it even before the S's. But then Philippe and Johnny touched, I think. Don't know what happened exactly, I haven't seen it yet. And sent Philippe in the wall, and yeah, that practically handed me the championship. Not the nicest way to win, but a win is a win, right? So, yeah. From there on, the pit stops, I was taking it pretty easy. Fighting with Johnny a bit, not taking too many risks. He underfueled a bit, I just heard. I overfueled a bit, and I think he overshot his pit stop. So yeah, in the end I was pretty happy I could lead it to the finish.
Well, we've got 2 more rounds of the series to go. We've got ourselves Snetterton and Montreal. Are you one of these drivers that's all aboard the hype train for Snetterton, or is it Montreal that you're looking forward to the most?
I'm actually a question mark for the last 2. With the BGT qualifiers coming up, doing the EFT qualifying with some teammates. So in the Sunday night is actually GT3. So yeah, we will see how that all works out.
Well, thank you very much there. Iron Defrator coming home with the race victory here today. Ignore that dropping position. He did finish in P number 1 here today. There we are. Jake, Iron Defrator pretty much champion, 2 rounds to go. Well, if he got it done here today, I mean, it might be a case that on the numbers, someone might be able to close up if Iron Defrator is not available. But, you know, it's been one of those situations. You mentioned it earlier on, consistency.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter how much of a quick driver you are. If you can't back it up and win it race to race, or if you can't back up a string of good performances on your B game or your C game, and being a driver is always going to be very difficult. There's a reason why Martin Conke went 12 for 12. He is not only the fastest driver in the world in sim racing, he's also the most consistent driver in the world with sim racing. And that deadly combination makes him invincible in 2017. And you could argue he could probably be invincible for half of 2018 right now with a hand tied behind his back.
Yes, we don't want to see that, but you know what? Actually, yes, I do there. But we've got a second place driver. That is going to be Johnny Goinde. He stood by with you, Jake.
Oh, how very lovely, Johnny. Firstly of all, you're going to have to apologise for me sounding, a little bit raspy.
I know.
This evening. But
oh, I thought you were going to mention the incident with Philippe.
Oh yeah, of course. That's incident with Philippe. Oh, how nice of you to remind me. Incident with Philippe. How was that?
That was all me. Like I thought he'd already moved all the way over to the curb, setting up for the S's, and I just couldn't see him on my monitor, and I just moved super quickly over to the right. Like even if I moved a little bit slower, maybe he could have moved out of the way. But still, I mean, it's my job to avoid him, not his to move out of the way. So yeah, I'll take full blame on that one, and I feel really bad. So sorry, Philippe, again.
A friendly fire between the teammates, not for the first time today on RaceSpotTV, which is a very interesting prospect to see. But for you yourself, you got yourself in the battle with Arjen between now and the end of the event, and well, you looked at what was a very, very good scrap, but it seemed in the last couple of laps that you just maybe faded a little bit from the chance to have a real crack at it.
Yeah, the second to last lap wasn't very good, so it wasn't close enough to really challenge on the start-finish straight on the final lap, which I think was the best bet at this track. Even then, you do have to be pretty close. I was actually surprised by how much harder it was to pass than I expected at this layout. But yeah, it was super fun. Like maybe if I didn't make that mistake coming into the second to last corner where I sort of slid a little bit too much and Arjen overtook me, maybe I could have kept him behind me. But in the end, to be honest, I don't really know how much that would have mattered because I started sputtering on the second to last corner on the final lap anyways. So I was pretty low on fuel. It is what it is.
It certainly is, and as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, the first thing you do is save fuel, the second thing you do is save fuel, and the last thing you do is definitely save fuel. But heading on from here, Snetterton, a much more different challenge to COTA West. It's very, very narrow. It's all about trying to work out some very, very difficult corners, and well, when you're dealing with old airfields very similar to Silverstone, you're looking for a certain type of action of racing, and you're always looking to try and see who's going to have a good chance when you get right down to it. Do you feel that maybe when you're getting into one of these races on these old airfields that maybe not having that elevation change just puts you maybe on a similar level to other people in terms of the fact that, you know, you're just racing the corner instead of racing a height change?
I don't know. I really like hilly tracks and elevation changes, but it really doesn't change much. If you have a good feel for the car, you'll be quick regardless of where you are. But yeah, personally, I really like Snetterton. I already ran a few laps in the Skippy, and it was really fun. I raced it in real life already, albeit with tons and tons of fog, so you couldn't see further than maybe 15 to 20 meters ahead. But yeah, it was quite different, but still, it's quite a fun track.
Well, it's very, very fun indeed. It's also like my morning at 6 o'clock in the morning as well. So before we let you go, Johnny, Mr. Two Shoes yourself, any shout-outs, any sponsors?
No, nothing. Just once again, I'd like to apologize to Philippe. Yeah, I'll take full blame for that. I don't think there's much else I can say about that.
Well, there's not much more that needs to be said, but instead of thanks, it's apologies instead, Will. But I don't think there'll be any apologies from the next driver. And
finally, just congratulate Arjen for the win, and I think the championship as well. I'm not sure. I don't think he was sure either. But yeah, it was really good, good clean racing this time as always, really. So congrats, Arjen.
Thank you, man. I'm calculating. I'm safe.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know Arjen, the first thing he does after the after the 2K races is he keeps on hitting Alt F4 on the 2K page just to see how many points he got.
Well, if you're hitting Alt F4, then there's something wrong.
F5,
yeah, hit the L. Yeah.
F5. Sorry, no, sorry.
100 people just closed out of the.
Well, it's going to be a very quiet interview all of a sudden. Paul Malokas, hi, how's it going?
Hi.
Third place here today, but it's been a very up and down race for you. Third place, when you put it into perspective, was that a good day for you?
Oh yeah, I was very pleased with it. I haven't touched the Skippy in about 2 months, so I was happy to jump in and do a random race because I didn't need to practice, and adapted pretty quickly back to the car, and got pole, and then was doing well, and then a little panic move as Johnny moved over cost me. But then we fought it out, and to the end, it was awesome racing with Adam. I was super worried because we had I was up to like 17 or 18 incidents, and any touch would have been the end for me. So it was great, and we finished dead heat for third and fourth. Yeah, 1/1000th of a second we have it on our timing screens. I know that some timing systems are classifying it as an actual dead heat, but talk about the spin. Talk about that whoopsie moment in more detail. Yeah, so I was just, I knew Arjen and Johnny had gone in side by side, and Johnny went out way wide, and I was thinking that he was going to be slow coming back in, and I was gaining really quickly, and he moved over very sharply, and I just reacted and then hit the bump and launched over it, and that was it. So luckily I came back and had a good pit stop and jumped the group I was with to get back in front for the podium spot.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that actually, even though your pit stop was faster than Rylance, he was right behind you for that final stint. The dead heat situation, what do you do when you know someone's going to make the move when you're side by side running through 20?
Yeah, I was just trying to get on the gas as early as I can and make sure we didn't crash. So, yeah, it worked out. I thought we actually coming to the line, I thought I had him easily. So I was surprised it was so close. Well,
2 more rounds to go. We've got the hype train in Snatterton, and then we've got Canada, Montreal. Which one of those two are you looking forward to the most?
I'm bowing out from here on out. I'll see you guys next week at the Neo at Road America.
Wait. Did you just say Neo?
Yep.
Ooh, Neo. Yep, the Neo Endurance Series, of course, is coming to RaceSpotTV. It will be here next week on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. I think I've got the dubious honour of having to broadcast this one as well, so who knows what's going to happen. The Neo Endurance Series back next week on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Anyone want to say thank you to? Shout-outs?
No,
sponsors?
I just want to say congrats to Arjen, and you know, thanks to the guys at ERT. It's been great. I just moved over recently, and they've been fantastic. So way to go. I think Arjen may have wrapped it up. I'm not sure if he's for sure or not got the championship, but it's close.
Have you hit the old F4 button enough yet, Arjen?
No, it's 100% sure now.
Have you done it?
Congratulations, man.
Congratulations. I feel like we needed a bit more of a fanfare there, Jake.
Woo!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, Arjen de Freitas then is confirmed as your champion for the Skip Barber 2K World Cup for this season. Now, Arjen, we'll come back to you for a moment then. How does it feel being champ?
Yeah, awesome. Twice in a row. I think I'm the only one until now that's actually defended this championship. So yeah, like you guys said already, it came down to absolutely being consistent. Like I said in most of the other interviews, I was happy with second place in a lot of races. Well, happy is a big word, but I knew it was a good point for the championship. Had 3 wins this season, I think now. So all in all, it's been a good season. And I'm pretty happy it's wrapped up because I can now focus on different cars, which will be exciting as well.
Jake, we have a champion. It's not a new champion, it's the same champion. Final thoughts as we head out of Circuit of the Americas.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's the same champion. I'd say it's a reigning, defending, undisputed.
I wish you had your voice right now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you do. But it's been a fantastic season, and it's proven that anybody can go win a race. Anybody can turn up in the 2K World Cup, and you will never know who is quite going to turn up to the races. But there is one constant here in the 2K World Cup. It's that Arjen de Vries will always be up there for the podium scrap and always going for the win. And that's a fantastic sight to see for quite a few fans who like and follow this 2K World Cup. I think it's a fantastic mantra. I think it's a fantastic title win. I think we're in for a very good fight next season.
Yeah, indeed. So we're just going to show you that one more time. This is what happened with Philippe Labeur. This is what basically made it game, set, championship for the driver of Arjen de Vries. So here's a look at Philippe Labeur. There's the moment. Into the wall, into the Armco barriers, and out of the race, and out of the championship. That's all we've got time for here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV. We do have a new, reigning, defending, undisputed champion here in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. That is Arjen de Vries. As that is all we've got time for tonight. We'll see you, of course, for Monday Night Skippies tomorrow. Join the YouTube sensation, Rachel Whiteford and Connery Maddock and Linus Bondstrom as Monday Night Skippies rounds out our iRacing week's worth of racing. And of course, we'll be back in a few weeks' time at Snetterton here in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup. Plenty more action to come, of course, on RaceSpotTV in terms of the Pro Series, the Near Endurance Series, Friday Night Primetime, you name it, we've got it. We're home for the biggest sim racing series in the world. We're RaceSpotTV. That guy is Shakespeare. His voice is lying around the floor somewhere. I'm Will Vincent. We'll talk to you all next time. Good night.
We'll be right back.